What if the greatest mysteries in human history were never meant to be solved? What if the answers exist, carefully guarded, deliberately obscured, hidden not because they're impossible to find, but because someone decided we should never know? This is the question we carry tonight as we step into 12 mysteries that have haunted humanity for decades, centuries, some for millennia. 12 puzzles that refuse resolution. 12 silences that echo louder than any answer ever could. And as we examine each one, we'll discover that the darkness isn't in what we don't know. The darkness is in why we're not allowed to know. Some mysteries fade with time. Evidence surfaces. Witnesses speak. Archives open. But the 12 we're about to explore behave differently. They resist investigation. They deflect scrutiny. They operate under a weight of silence so deliberate, so consistent, that the silence itself becomes the evidence. These are not mysteries awaiting discovery. These are mysteries engineered to remain hidden. And tonight, we'll uncover why. The first mystery begins in 1908, in a remote region of Siberia so isolated that the explosion heard there took weeks to reach the outside world. The Tunguska event, they call it. An atmospheric detonation so powerful it flattened 80 million trees across 2,000 square kilometers. Witnesses described a column of fire rising into the sky, heat so intense it scorched reindeer herds kilometers away, and a shockwave that registered on seismographs across Europe. The blast was 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, and yet no crater was ever found. No meteorite fragments, no conclusive evidence of what caused it. The official explanation settled on an airburst, a comet or asteroid exploding in the atmosphere before impact. Convenient, tidy, except the explosion's characteristics don't align perfectly with known airburst behavior. The thermal patterns were asymmetrical. The devastation followed unusual vectors. And most troubling, expeditions to the site have repeatedly uncovered anomalies. Elevated radiation levels in tree rings, unusual magnetic signatures in the soil, traces of elements that should not exist in those concentrations naturally. Some researchers propose the explosion was not natural at all, but the result of an experimental weapon test, perhaps Tesla's rumored death ray, or an early atmospheric energy experiment gone catastrophically wrong. Others suggest something entered our atmosphere that night, something that did not behave like a meteor. And the reason the mystery endures is not lack of investigation, it's the suppression of findings. Soviet archives remain sealed. Independent researchers face restricted access. The region itself, even today, is difficult to reach without government clearance. A century later, Tunguska remains unsolved not because we lack technology to solve it, but because someone prefers the silence. Our second mystery pulls us beneath the ocean's surface, into the dark, cold abyss, where sound travels farther than light ever could. In 1997, hydrophones positioned across the Pacific detected something extraordinary. A sound. Massive, low frequency, rising and falling in a pattern unlike anything documented before. They called it the bloop. The sound was so loud it registered on sensors more than 5,000 kilometers apart. To produce such volume, the source would need to be larger than any known biological creature, larger than a blue whale, larger than anything we've cataloged, larger, in fact, than most marine scientists believed biologically possible. The official explanation came years later. Ice quakes, they said. The sound of glacial ice fracturing and calving into the ocean. Plausible, except the bloop's frequency signature does not match typical ice fracture events. Its rise and fall resemble biological vocalization more than geological rupture. And most unsettling, the sound was never heard again. Not in 1998, not in 2000, not ever. A noise that powerful, if geological, should recur. Glaciers fracture constantly, yet the bloop remains singular.
Some marine biologists whisper about deep ocean species we've never encountered, creatures living in trenches so deep, so remote, that our technology has barely scratched their habitat. Others propose something else, that the sound was not natural at all, that it was a test, a signal, a pulse from something human-made, classified and submerged. The reason the bloop will never be solved is not mystery, it's jurisdiction. The deep ocean is the last unmonitored frontier. What happens there, what's tested there, remains beyond civilian oversight. And if something is down there, something massive and deliberate, the last thing any government wants is for us to start asking why. The third mystery takes us to the desert, to a place that has become synonymous with secrecy. Area 51. For decades, the name alone triggered speculation, conspiracy theories, alien folklore, and for decades, the U.S. government denied its existence entirely. Then, in 2013, they admitted it. Yes, Area 51 exists. Yes, it's a classified military testing facility. No, you still can't know what happens there. That admission should have ended the mystery. Instead, it deepened it. Because if the government finally acknowledged the base after 60 years of denial, what are they still hiding?
The official narrative frames Area 51 as a site for experimental aircraft development, the U-2 spy plane, the SR-71 Blackbird, stealth technology. All true, all documented, but that explanation covers only a fraction of the base's activity. Satellite imagery reveals expansion that far exceeds aircraft testing needs. Massive underground complexes, runways longer than any civilian or military airport requires. Energy consumption inconsistent with a simple R&D facility. And then there are the reports. Not from conspiracy theorists, but from contractors, engineers, scientists who worked there under clearance and later spoke carefully about projects they could not name, technologies they could not describe, experiments that defied public understanding of physics. Some claim Area 51 houses recovered materials from non-terrestrial sources. Others believe it's a testing ground for energy systems decades ahead of public science. Still others propose it functions as a hub for black budget projects so classified that even Congress lacks oversight. The truth is layered. The mystery isn't whether Area 51 exists, it's what purpose it serves now, and why, even after acknowledgement, the perimeter remains one of the most heavily guarded zones on Earth. Armed patrols, motion sensors, aircraft that will intercept any unauthorized approach. A facility this protected isn't hiding old planes. It's hiding active operations. And as long as those operations remain classified, the mystery remains unsolvable, by design. Our fourth mystery is smaller in scale, but no less haunting. The Voynich manuscript, a 15th century codex written in a language no one has ever deciphered. Not medieval scholars, not cryptographers, not AI algorithms trained on every known linguistic pattern. The manuscript contains over 240 pages of text, accompanied by illustrations of plants that do not exist, astronomical diagrams that correspond to no known system, and human figures engaged in rituals no historian can identify. Carbon dating confirms the manuscript's age. The parchment is genuine. The ink is period appropriate. This is not a modern hoax. It is an authentic medieval document written in a script that resists every attempt at translation. Some linguists argue it's an elaborate cipher. Others believe it's a constructed language, created for secrecy or ritual. A few propose it's glossolalia, automatic writing from a religious or psychological trance state. But none of these theories explain why the text demonstrates statistical patterns consistent with natural language. It has structure. It has syntax. It behaves like communication, yet it communicates nothing we can decode. The reason the Voynich manuscript may never be solved is not complexity. It's isolation. If the language was ever spoken, no other record survives. If it encodes knowledge, that knowledge died with its author. And if the manuscript was meant to conceal information, it succeeded perfectly. Some mysteries remain unsolved because the key was destroyed, and the Voynich manuscript may be the most beautiful example of knowledge locked forever behind a door no one can open. The fifth mystery returns us to the ocean, but this time we're not listening. We're looking at an artifact so out of place, so impossible by conventional timelines, that its existence has sparked decades of debate. The Antikythera mechanism. Discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in 1901, this device is a mechanical computer. Gears, dials, inscriptions. It calculated astronomical positions, predicted eclipses, tracked the Olympic Games cycle. It is sophisticated beyond anything else from its era. In fact, no mechanism of comparable complexity appears again in human history for another 1,400 years. The device dates to around 100 BCE. That means ancient Greeks possessed engineering knowledge that would not resurface until the Renaissance. How? Who built it? And more troubling, if they built this, what else did they build that we haven't found? The standard explanation is that it represents a pinnacle of Hellenistic engineering, a singular achievement by an unknown craftsman. But singular achievements don't explain the precision. The Antikythera mechanism required advanced metallurgy, mathematical models of planetary motion, and an understanding of gear ratios that shouldn't exist for over a millennium. Some researchers propose the Greeks had access to knowledge from an earlier, lost civilization. Others suggest the mechanism was reverse engineered from something even older. The mystery deepens because the device was found by accident. If this shipwreck hadn't been discovered, we would never know it existed. Which raises a chilling question. How many other artifacts like this are still lost? How many times has human knowledge reached heights we assume impossible, only to collapse into silence, leaving us to rediscover what was already known? The Antikythera mechanism will never be fully solved because the civilization that built it left no instruction manual, and the answers, if they exist, lie at the bottom of oceans we've barely begun to explore. The sixth mystery is written in stone, literally. The Georgia Guidestones. Erected in 1980 in rural Georgia, these massive granite slabs stood inscribed with 10 guidelines for humanity, written in 8 languages. Maintain humanity under 500 million. Guide reproduction wisely. Rule passion with reason. The messages were strange enough, but stranger still was the secrecy surrounding their construction. No one knows who commissioned them. The man who arranged their installation used a pseudonym and paid in cash. The granite company that built them signed non-disclosure agreements, and the monument's true sponsors vanished without a trace.
For over 40 years, the Guidestones stood as a silent enigma. Were they a warning, a manifesto, a time capsule for a future civilization? Conspiracy theories flourished. Some claimed they were a blueprint for global depopulation. Others saw them as a message from a secret society. In 2022, the monument was bombed. Portions were destroyed. Shortly after, authorities demolished what remained, officially for safety reasons. But the timing felt deliberate, a mystery erased before it could be solved. And now, with the physical structure gone, the truth is even more elusive. The message inscribed on those stones implied a future catastrophe, a collapse requiring humanity to rebuild with fewer people, stricter guidelines, and controlled governance. Who predicted this, and why did they feel compelled to encode it in stone? The Georgia Guidestones will never be solved because the people who built them ensured their anonymity, and the destruction of the monument feels less like vandalism and more like the final act of concealment.
Our seventh mystery is electromagnetic. In the 1970s, researcher Nikola Tesla proposed wireless energy transmission. He claimed he could send electrical power across vast distances without wires, using the Earth itself as a conductor. His experiments at Wardenclyffe Tower reportedly demonstrated this capability. Then funding vanished. The tower was dismantled. Tesla's notes were confiscated after his death by the U.S. government. And wireless energy, despite its revolutionary potential, disappeared from mainstream science for decades. Why? If Tesla succeeded, if even a fraction of his claims were accurate, wireless energy would transform civilization. No power lines, no energy grid vulnerabilities, unlimited clean transmission. Yet the technology was suppressed. Some argue it wasn't feasible, that Tesla's experiments were incomplete or exaggerated. But others point to the geopolitical implications. Wireless energy cannot be metered, controlled, or monopolized easily. It threatens the entire infrastructure of energy commerce. Oil, coal, centralized grids all become obsolete, and obsolescence means collapse for industries worth trillions. Tesla's papers remain partially classified even today. Some were released, others were not. The mystery isn't whether wireless energy is possible. Modern physics confirms it is. The mystery is why, a century later, it still isn't used. And the answer is darker than technical limitations. It's economics, it's control. It's the deliberate suppression of technologies that destabilize power. Tesla's dream will never be solved, because solving it would require dismantling the systems that profit from its absence. Our eighth mystery lives in the sky. On November 7, 2006, pilots and airport staff at Chicago O'Hare International Airport witnessed something extraordinary. A metallic disc-shaped object hovering silently above gate C-17. The object remained stationary for several minutes, then accelerated vertically, punching a hole through the cloud layer and disappearing. FAA radar detected nothing. Official investigations dismissed it as weather phenomena. But witnesses, including experienced pilots, insisted otherwise. What they saw was structured, controlled, and unlike any known aircraft. The O'Hare incident is one of thousands of unexplained aerial phenomena reported annually. Most are dismissed. Some are classified. A few, like O'Hare, are too public to ignore, yet too inconvenient to acknowledge. In 2021, the U.S. government released a report admitting that numerous UAP sightings remain unexplained. No definitive conclusions, no identifications. Just an admission that something is happening in our skies that we cannot account for. This represents a shift. For decades, the government denied, deflected, ridiculed. Now they admit uncertainty. But uncertainty is not transparency. The report raised more questions than it answered. Are these objects foreign technology? Experimental U.S. craft, or something else entirely? The mystery endures because the data is controlled. Military pilots who report UAPs face career consequences. Civilian footage is debunked or ignored, and the most compelling evidence remains classified. The phenomenon will never be solved publicly because the entities with the answers benefit from our ignorance. Whether the truth is terrestrial or otherwise, disclosure would destabilize too much. So the skies remain full of questions, and the answers remain locked in vaults we'll never access. Our ninth mystery is biological. In the 1950s, a global pandemic swept through rabbit populations. Myxotomosis, a virus deliberately released to control rabbit numbers in Australia. It worked. Rabbit populations collapsed by over 90%. But then something unexpected happened. The virus mutated.
it became less lethal. Rabbits developed resistance. And within years, an equilibrium emerged. The virus still existed, but it no longer annihilated its host. Evolution, we're told. Natural selection favoring less deadly strains because dead hosts can't spread the virus. Textbook biology. Except some researchers noticed something strange. The mutation rate was unusually rapid. The adaptations too synchronized across populations separated by vast distances. And some strains appeared engineered, as if modified in a lab, then released. What if myxotomosis wasn't just a pest control measure? What if it was a field test, a biological experiment to observe viral behavior, mutation rates, and population control effectiveness in real time across an entire species? If true, the implications are chilling, because the techniques refined on rabbits could be applied elsewhere. The mystery isn't whether myxotomosis was released deliberately. That's documented. The mystery is whether it was only about rabbits, and whether similar experiments continue today, hidden under the guise of wildlife management or disease research. We'll never know, because biological warfare programs operate under classification levels that make Area 51 look transparent. Our 10th mystery exists in plain sight, yet remains invisible to most. Subliminal messaging. In the 1950s, marketer James Vicary claimed he inserted hidden messages into films, flashing words like "drink Coca-Cola" for milliseconds during movies. He reported a significant increase in consumption sales. The technique sparked outrage. Governments moved to regulate it, and then Vicary admitted it was a hoax. Except researchers later confirmed that subliminal perception is real. The brain processes information below conscious awareness. Stimuli too brief to notice can still influence behavior, preferences, emotions. So why did Vicary retract his claims? Some believe he was pressured, that his technique worked too well, that admitting its effectiveness would expose an industry already using it. Since then, subliminal techniques have been documented in advertising, political campaigns, even entertainment. Hidden imagery, embedded audio, frequencies designed to trigger specific emotional responses. All legal, all denied. The mystery isn't whether subliminal influence exists. Neuroscience confirms it does. The mystery is how extensively it's deployed. What messages are we receiving without knowing? What behaviors are being shaped below our conscious threshold? This will never be solved because the moment we become aware of manipulation, it loses effectiveness. So the techniques evolve, staying just below perception, influencing us in ways we'll never consciously recognize. Our 11th mystery is architectural. Coral Castle, located in Florida, is a structure built entirely by one man, Edward Leedskalnin, between 1923 and 1951. The site contains massive coral blocks, some weighing over 30 tons, carved and positioned with precision that baffles engineers. Leedskalnin stood just 5 feet tall and weighed 100 pounds. He worked alone, mostly at night, and refused to let anyone observe his methods. When asked how he moved the stones, he claimed to understand the secrets of the pyramids. He spoke of magnetism, leverage, and harmony with natural forces. After his death, researchers found crude tools, chains, and tripods. Nothing capable of moving 30-ton blocks. No heavy machinery, no evidence of external help. Some propose he used a now-lost technique involving sound frequency or magnetic fields.